stories on my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some personal spooky stories and some of my thoughts about sharing spooky stories, especially when the veil is this thin. This video is coming out on October 31st. October 31st is going to be when the veil is at its thinnest, and it'll still be thin up until November 11th, and then there'll be a portal November 11th to November 22nd, which is a whole other story. But the veil will be at its thinnest October 31st, which is fun. So if you want, grab your cozy beverages, some snacks, and get comfy. I wanted to make this video and say some fun, spooky stories because it's coming out October 31st and have it just be fun, which is the intention and the energy behind this video. Now, what I have realized is, and hopefully we're going to get to the point. Do we ever get to the point in any Carly videos? No. The point is not the destination is the journey. So I wanted to explain something first before I dive into some of the spooky stories that have happened to me and my sister. And I'm only going to be sharing those stories. We'll see if I share other stories. So I set up protections around this video, around my energy, and to prevent any type of energy transfer. Because the thing is the more that you talk about something, the more that it makes that thing real. I mean, that's just the way things work, right? That's law of attraction, manifestation, whatever you want to call it. That's the way the energy works. You believe something to be true, it makes it true. And I've explained that before in other videos. So the thing is like in many different communities, we have many different names for different things, right? In the spiritual community, when we're saying that the things that we say are our spells, our words, our manifestations, our intentions, is what we believe, and we make it true. So what we believe is what makes it true. So that being said, in the paranormal community, that type of energy is called an egregore. And an egregore is, I don't know who coined that term. It's basically the idea that it's a thought form energy. And so if a collective group of people believe a certain thing, then the belief of that thing of each person is energy, because thoughts are energy, right? And so those thoughts, those energy forms become like a ball, so to speak, if you want to think of it that way, and can manifest as that belief. And it manifests as a thought form, and it's called an egregore. And that can develop its own consciousness, can communicate. I've seen it in many different investigations. And I learn a lot from watching investigations, from hearing from people, from talking to people, talking to different psychics. And I am a psychic medium, and I would like to continue to do my own investigations, but I learn a lot about energy and the way that the world works from interacting with people, right? And from watching these kinds of things. And so what I've realized recently is that speaking of a particular haunting, or believing in a particular haunting, or a particular paranormal event, or a particular land that people say is special or unique in certain ways, puts energy and momentum into that thing being real and continuing and perpetuating to be real. Perpetuates that belief in that energy, whether it is good or bad. It could be positive or it could be negative, depending on your perspective. Now, that is a very human way of perceiving good or bad, positive, negative, right? That's a very 3D human earth way of perceiving, and that's okay, right? Because we're here and that is what it is, right? Now, it's a whole other story to go into that. I don't really believe that anything is good or bad, because that's just a higher dimensional way of perceiving, is not perceiving hierarchical good or bad, positive and negative, because I believe everything can be transmuted, and it is how we perceive and project our own beliefs onto something. So if one person perceives something as lower vibrational energy, another person can perceive that thing as a high vibrational energy, and that's how that energy, that thing is going to interact with that person, if that makes sense. And it's all about beliefs. And it's not always thought beliefs, it is how you feel. Because energy doesn't lie. Feelings, emotions don't lie, right? We can be saying one thing and actually feeling and meaning another. So yeah. So with that being said, I did not want to perpetuate any hauntings or egregorish energies, or to put energy or momentum into something that I didn't mean to be doing. Our words are super powerful, really. Truly, they are. And so I've already communicated with my spirit team and set up protections around this video to not do that. Because I'm going to be talking about the house I grew up in. When I moved out of that house, I spent a few hours, many days clearing the house energetically. So physically, I did some sage, I did some clearing. We physically cleaned the entire house, so that helps with energy work for sure, especially with the wood. It was full of old wood. I've explained this in a previous video. Very, very, very old house and full of original wood. It's a beautiful house, but haunted, yes. So was, you know what I mean? I don't want to perpetuate that for any new owners, right? So clearing that, I did energy work on the house to clear our energy, any previous energy, any hauntings, clearing the wood of any residual stuff, that kind of thing, because there was a lot of residual energy. Now, I've explained this in other videos as well. As a very young kid, I could see spirits. Mostly angels is who I connected with. Angels and spirit guides is who I can see in my room. I saw them floating around my room a lot, and those memories really became more prominent during my energy healing journey. So since 2021, early 2021, it's almost been 5 years, those memories are starting to come back online for me. And I've always known this. It's always been a thing, and it's always been talked about in my family that Carly would talk to herself. She used to talk to herself in her bedroom or wherever, and she liked to be alone. My voice, because my throat does this sometimes when I have talking videos like this. Yeah, so I loved to be alone, and I love to, just talk freely, and I still do that now. I've connected to that part of myself of just communicating with my spirit team and just working things out, even just like talking to my higher self, my soul. Gaia is huge in grounding and communicating and figuring things out, and just kind of, a lot of my personal development journey, I should say most of my personal development journey I've done by myself. So a lot of my inner child work, ancestral healing, all that good stuff I've done, just me and my spirit team. So I find it super helpful. So I used to see spirits and angels in my room. It'd be interesting to rewatch all of my videos and to see if there's any orbs, but I actually caught an orb on camera during the recording of my crystal healing course. I pressed record, and as soon as I pressed record, I saw an orb go like this way on my camera, and it's on my Instagram if you want to check it out. So that's really cool. But yeah, angels are always around me. Spirit team's always around me. Now, I did have a out-of-body experience when I was around 7-ish, I want to say. I don't really know, but I was young, under the age of 10 for sure. I feel like I've always been really empathic and in tune with everything. So I feel like I was talking to spirits before, since the age of like 3. So I feel like I had an out-of-body experience because I was so sensitive and attuned to the other side, so to speak. But I wanted to share this story because it was pretty wild and it happened to me, and we didn't really know what was going on. So I had this conversation with my mom, and we had this conversation growing up for like many years. I just kept talking about it because I had to ask her questions. I was like, because I wanted to see from her perspective what was happening. I don't remember if I've ever shared this. I feel like I have shared this. I was at the dentist, and I remember I was laying down in the chair and my mom was beside me. All of a sudden, I could see myself. And for a young child, I'm like, what the fuck? In my child brain, I was probably like, huh? It was very challenging to get back into my body. And I could see myself, and I saw, and then it started to zoom out. So I was floating away. So I was like lying there, and I started floating away. I have goosebumps right now. I'm like, I knew in my heart, like in my soul, I was like, this is not good. I don't like this. This is not okay. And I could see everything. I could hear my mom, and I could see myself, the chair, the walls, the TV. The TV was on. I could see everything. And I saw angels, and they were around me. And they said that it's more telepathic communication. It wasn't so much like they were like speaking like in my ear. It was more telepathic and like clear cognizant of just knowing, like they were just like communicating with me. And what they were saying was, you can come or you can stay. And I wanted to stay. And I was like, no. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm confused. Like, I don't understand what's going on. And so they were helping me to stay and to get back into my body. And it was basically, I had to like fight to get back into my body. And I don't want to use the word fight because we humans have certain connotations around that in a negative way. It felt like I was pushing up against a brick wall. That's what it felt like. It felt like there was a brick wall and I was pushing up against the brick wall. I was getting really, really close to like the ceiling and the wall. And I knew, I was like, do not go above the ceiling or the wall. Stay in this room, stay in this room. And so I was telling myself to stay in the room. I don't know how I knew that. I just knew that. And I was like pushing my energy or my soul to get closer and closer back into my body. It was very scary. And I just didn't know what was going on, and I was just fighting to get back. Now I know this sounds, we've definitely moved past this, and it's more of like a interesting story to tell. But I could hear my mom saying, like, come back to me, come back. Like, my mom knew that's her story to tell. But yeah, I could hear her saying that, and she was a little freaked out. But after we talked about it, it felt like I was fighting against a brick wall, and I eventually, obviously, hello, here I am. I came back. But yeah, and I did have some weird, like, dreams, like weird, like, hallucinating stuff happening too. So that was the story of me coming out of my body. And then in the chair, I don't know if I fell asleep or I had some type of weird dreams that I was telling my mom after, of like, there was a pink building and it was a hospital, and it was an old hospital. And again, I'm like between the ages of 6 and 8, 7-ish. So it's a very young child. And it was old pink hospital, and there was people in, like, very, very, sick people, like in wheelchairs and things like that. And they were like leaving, like wanting to leave. And I'm not going to share too many details on how that was happening. But basically, either they wanted to transition into the spirit realm or leave the hospital. It was just kind of like they just wanted to leave. And so that was really weird and interesting. And I could hear people like shouting and things like that. And I was kind of on the ground looking up at this hospital, and it was like a weird, I don't know if I was seeing a point in time or if I was seeing another dimension or where I was or what was happening, because it could be, the thing is like there's a really thin line between the dream world and the astral realm and visiting other dimensions. And so I have been visiting other dimensions and astral traveling, astral projecting ever since I was a kid, probably since the out-of-body experience. Now, I've always been a very psychic, sensitive, empathic kid. Maybe my astral realm projection visitations have been happening since I was a kid, because I visited many different dimensions and many other lives of myself. It's a whole other story, but for example, I've also like woken up many times. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but you're not alone, of like waking up and trying to remember your name and where you are. Like, who am I? Like, who am I today? Who am I waking up as? And that happened a lot as a teenager and in my early 20s, which is really funny. But yeah, that was my experience. And I talked to my mom after, and she told me this later on, but I remember we were walking home because I was fine. Like, I was fine, but I was a little freaked out. So I was walking home with her, and I go, something weird happened. She goes, what? And I go, and I explained my experience, and she goes, okay, she didn't want to freak me out or say anything. So that's why we've talked about it multiple times over the years since then. And she's told me about her experience and what she went through, but she didn't really tell me at that time. She just kind of let me be like, okay, it's okay, like not like freak me out. But it definitely freaked me out. That might freak me out. We've talked about it since, her experience with that, and it's just wild. So that was that wild experience. And then I feel like I was around, so also, again, me and my sister have really been into the paranormal and investigations and different like horror movies and things like that, like paranormal movies, since we were really young. So I was about 12 when I watched my first horror movie in the paranormal. And yes, it's fake, obviously, but it scared me so bad that I was curious. I was so curious. I was like, I don't understand. Because like a lot of them are like based off of true stories, but they embellish them and make them like fake and whatever. But I was like, how is this possible? So it really intrigued me. So that was when my curiosity started of the paranormal side instead of just like the spiritual side. The spiritual community and paranormal community are very similar, but like they have different lingo and different things going on and how they explain things. But so it sparked my curiosity, but also made me really afraid, which is interesting because in my personal experience in the paranormal world, the paranormal community, there's a lot of like fear, and I don't really like that. But I feel a lot of fear from my community, like when I'm watching like shows and stuff, like I can feel it, you know what I mean? And like online and things like that, I can feel the fear, which I want to transmute. Like it shouldn't be that way. Things are what they are, and but around the age of 12 is when I first watched my first like paranormal horror movie, and scarred me for life. No, I'm kidding. Scarred me for a while. But then around like 12 to 14 is when I started shutting down my gifts because I was scared. But I was still watching a lot of like psychic shows because I was so intrigued by all the psychics. I was like, that'd be so cool to like train my gifts and things like that. But I shut them down. I was like, no, I don't want anything to do with this. And this is conscious, but more subconscious doing this. And there's people around me as well that had paranormal experiences that were scary to me. And so I didn't really like that and I didn't want anything to do with it. I was like, don't bother me. And so the spirits kind of went away basically because I set up boundaries and intentions of I don't want to communicate. And I shut down my mediumship hard. I did not want to communicate with any spirits or even my spirit team. Like I just like completely until I want to say sometime in my 20s. Honestly, I couldn't tell you, but my gifts started to come out more and more. And I knew I was an empath, so I knew I could feel other people's energy. So that's kind of where it started, is me recognizing that I'm an empath and I could feel other people's energy. I'm more sensitive. And then I started seeing more spirits. They started coming around again when I started recognizing my gifts. And then when I started energy healing in early 2021, then my gifts just kind of exploded and just really opened up. And I accepted more and more of it as the years went on there for the past 5 years. But I grew up in a haunted house. So growing up, I wanted to ignore all of it. And I just played most of the occurrences off as like, oh, it's a house, like trying to explain it and rationalize it away, which, a lot of things can be explained, right? Like pipes move and floors creak and houses settle. There's water in pipes. There's cold and heat. And, because in Canada, we have the contraction of the house getting like cold and then the house warming up again, right? Even though it's all insulated or whatever, but our temperatures fluctuate a lot. And so like you can hear the houses move. And so this house does that. This house is not haunted. But this house definitely like has a little bit of noises and that's normal. But now I can recognize the difference between that and the other house, which I've cleared. But definitely the ghosts liked to hang out in that house for sure. I don't know who they were. Some of them were friends, family members who I've recognized and put together, but I've set boundaries of invasion of privacy for their privacy, my privacy. It's a boundary. I don't allow spirits that I don't know into my house. So when I started to learn about energy protections 5 years ago, I started putting protections around the house, and that's when things started to calm down. But I noticed in that house, it's kind of like if you've ever experienced being around a spirit, which, most of us have, it's kind of like that feeling of being watched. You're not scared. Like, it's not like fear, but it's like a startle. It's like an uneasy feeling, like, you're not the only person in the room. I would see shadows all the time. And I would play it off as my eyes, right? And I would just see shadows like coming down the stairs, or we had dogs in the house that had passed away. So I played it off as just, maybe it's the dog. I don't know. And it could have been, I don't know. But because I wasn't paying attention to like who it was. I was just full on ignoring whatever was happening around me. We had like hairbrushes fall, like something being fully on the counter, like fully not tipping off the counter or anything like that, like fully on the counter being taken off. Like a crash would happen on the upstairs floor, which is where the bedrooms were. And I would go upstairs and there'd be nothing there. Footsteps on the stairs and upstairs as well. So there's a difference between wood creaking and a footstep. And trust me, I know the difference. I am very familiar with the difference with that. We had very old floors. The floors did creak. Absolutely. Floors creaked, pipes moved. Yes, I know what that sounds like. And then I know what footsteps sound like as well. It's difference for sure. Just of the sound, the impact, the thud, of the heel going, like the creak of like going heel, foot, toe, like, and the thud of it and like the impact of the shoe, like for sure there's a difference between a little creak in the floorboards or like the house settling or the cold snap or whatever. Yeah, weird things like that. And then, so my sister lived in the basement for a bit in that house. She gave me permission to tell the story. But I had to do some major energy healing. So this particular event, now there's been weird things that, there's probably a lot of things that I forget that have happened in that house, but there's been a lot of weird things growing up. But this one particular time, I already had learned Reiki. So I could already do Reiki on myself and other people. I am a Reiki master teacher and I've been initiated into that. And so I had already learned Reiki at this point. So my sister, she has her own stories to tell, but there has been a few things that she's brought home that I've had to clear for her. And so this one particular time, she was just like cleaning the basement and like just doing stuff in the basement, whatever. And our basement, it wasn't a creepy basement. So fully furnished, renovated, really nice, bright windows, very lovely place. But, it was haunted. Well, whatever. Fully functioning. So it wasn't like too scary because we were used to the energy. Like we were used to the spirits. We were used to the residual energy in the house. Like we lived with it. since we were young, right? So we were like, whatever. Anyways, getting off topic. Where's the point? Yeah, she was cleaning the basement and fully renovated. Like, it's a nice place to be. It's fine. But she's cleaning. She had her speaker on a window like that, right? And her speaker was on the window, and the ledge is wide enough to have a tiny, it's a tiny little Bluetooth speaker pushed up against the window. Like, the window or in the middle or whatever, like not on the edge, like not hanging off the edge where it can fall, like sitting on the ledge, right? And she had some music going, not that loud, like it wasn't like vibrating or anything to make it fall. So it was fine. And she was just cleaning. All of a sudden she hears, so she didn't see it come off the window, which is what happened. She heard a crash, like a boom. And she goes, what the fuck? So she comes around the corner and she looks and she sees it roll, and I have chills. So what actually happened is, I don't know if I can explain it. My room's not even as big as the basement. It flew across the width of the basement, basically, is what happened. It was sitting on the window. Maybe I can give a good visual. Imagine the speaker, like I have a little box right there, okay? Imagine that's the speaker. Where's my finger? There, okay? There's a little box right there. Imagine the speaker's right there, and all of a sudden, it is way over here. Over there. That's what happened. I don't know if that's the actual distance, but no, further, because it was the width of the basement. So it was on the window. So we had a window here, whatever, here. And then on the other side of the basement was the laundry room. And so it flew across the width of the basement and it rolled right in front of the laundry room. So it's not like it tipped off and rolled in front of the window-ish area, like right there, like if it would just like tip off and just like roll right there. No. It was like across the room and then rolled, because she heard a crash and then she heard a like a little bit of a roll, instead of like if it would fall like right here, if it was just like tipped off by like the vibration or whatever, she would have heard the roll for a longer period of time rather than just like a little quick roll, like a crash and then a quick roll. Okay. Yeah, wild. So she did not like that. She tried, not to be too freaked out. I don't think she was that freaked out, but some things started happening more intensely after that, where I had to do a clearing on her and the basement and whatever. But those are her stories. I wanted to share the story of the speaker because that was crazy. Like, I really wish that was caught on camera, because it's really hard to explain why it would end up across the room. Yeah, nothing that intense happened in terms of poltergeist-ish energy. I mean, there was a few things that would like shift or move or fall or like whatever that is unexplainable, that shouldn't be happening. Like, for example, like this is my desk that I'm recording on, and I have, it's a wide desk and I have all these things on it, and it's like imagining something like this coming off and being on the floor. Like, it's like, that's not possible. Like, how would that even happen? This kind of like weird stuff like that would happen around the house. So yeah, so things kind of started to pick up after the speaker, and then I had to do a clearing on her and the space, and then it was fine. After that, I started doing more intense energy protections around the house to not allow anything in that's not of divine love, which is what I do here. I do a lot of protections around this property, my room in particular, and I do a lot of Baha'i, and I call upon the angels, which is who I work with mostly, and my spirit team. But yeah, that feels complete for me. I really love stories like this. I love talking about the unexplainable and coming up with my own theories on how energy works and the third dimension here, because Earth is so unique that things don't really work the same in other places the way it works here. And so it's really interesting what us humans have created in terms of energy, in terms of our own beliefs. And again, our beliefs make things real. There are certain things that I don't think is real. There are some things that I feel like, especially in our past and our history, that we have misinterpreted, with a lot of the different symbols and carvings that happened in caves in different places around the world, that our interpretation of aliens, when aliens have visited in other time periods. I've watched so many different documentaries from archaeologists and different artifacts and specialists and scientists in the field of studying our history in terms of caves, in terms of hieroglyphs and stories that we've written eons ago about what happened, and just our interpretation of things. Sometimes I feel like our understanding of things have been misinterpreted. good. And there are certain things that I don't believe in. There are certain things that I do. There are certain things that I feel like in my personal belief that I'm getting to the bottom of how energy works and how things operate on Earth. You know, I do believe in other dimensions, higher dimensions and lower dimensions. And, you know, I believe there are high vibrational energies and low vibrational energies. And again, we have certain connotations of what high and low mean in terms of a hierarchical sense and a human understanding of what that is. But in my belief, you know, it just is what it is. There are things that are high vibrational, which are more anchored in divine love, and things that are low vibrational that maybe aren't anchored in divine love, but can be transmuted, because I also believe that everything is divine love. And whether something has forgotten its soul, forgotten its divine love, forgotten its magic, is kind of what I believe happens. And then also, of course, you know, with the egregorish energy of what the paranormal community calls egregores and what the spiritual community calls as manifestations or intentions, our beliefs make things real. And so it's just being intentional with your belief system. And going forward, I'm definitely going to be more intentional with my belief system and my words. I'm always checking myself to make sure what I'm saying is what I want to happen, is what I actually believe. And I just find it so cool. The spiritual community, the paranormal community, you know, it's all one, right? And I find it so interesting and also important to have these conversations, to talk about these things, because it's not like, oh, well, I don't want my speech to make things real. It's one thing to ignore something completely and to choose to align to a belief system of a reality that you want to live, and to also have these conversations. It's fun. It depends on the energy you put behind it, right? If it's like fear-based or scarcity, or that could be interesting too. To each your own, of course. I like to be a little scared sometimes. I feel like it's healthy, especially to work through your fear. Working through your fear, that's one of our life lessons here on Earth. We're on Earth to work through these lower vibrational, heavier emotions. We are. That's why we're here. And there's going to be a point where we're not, where we're back in spirit form, where we're back to our oversoul in the higher dimensions. And then what? And then we can't work on these earth things. We're here on Earth to experience and learn and grow and evolve and to work with these energies. So I think it's important to have these conversations. And then, you know, to also align to the energy that you wish to experience in your reality. So fun stuff. This is wild. Spooky season went by so fast. I don't even want to believe it, but it's happening. And happy Halloween, happy spooky season. I hope everyone has an amazing Halloween, a fun Halloween, however you like to celebrate or not celebrate. That's up to you. Right? But regardless, I hope everyone has an amazing day. And I'm excited to do spooky season again next year. And what fun things I'm going to come up with next year. Maybe some more investigations or more fun stories. Who knows? I had a lot of fun this season. And I'm excited for the fall and winter. We've got some more fun things coming up. I do have some plans for November and December content. I'm definitely going to be doing some card pulls. So I read the Akashic Records and I channel my spirit team, and I would love to put that on video. So I'm going to be doing some oracle card readings and maybe some other fun stuff. I'm going to be working a lot with my pendulum as well for some videos. I have some fun stuff planned, but definitely let me know in the comment section down below or on Instagram what you'd like to see from my content, from my videos. What do you want to know about me? If you have questions for me, if you want to know about a certain thing, if you have questions about certain perspectives that I have, or what you'd like to see from my content. So definitely let me know. Definitely let me know. I am curious what you want to see from my content. Now you have a little bit of a vibe of what I'm going for. And if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. I really, really, really appreciate it. It means so much to me. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video as well. Please share it with friends and family who you think might like and enjoy this content. And I'll see y'all in November. Have a great day. Bye.